welcome to Buy Now, Sell Now. You're watching ET Now. I'm Varun Hiremath, and along with me, Karunya Rao. Let's now take a look at the headlines for this morning. All eyes are still on the US election, and of course, there's a discrepancy as to who the president really is going to be. It seems that Biden is one state away from victory, and Trump campaign files a lawsuit to stop counting votes in Georgia. So we all knew this might happen if it doesn't go in Trump's favor. It seems to be playing out now. But markets don't seem to care. 12,000 on the Nifty has been reclaimed, and of course part of this is because the Dow rallied 800 points last night. Of course it closed at 367, but across the board we saw all three benchmarks, Nasdaq, S&P rally. So Nifty is also taking cues. Asian index is also up today, so Nikkei, Topix, Kospi, all those are firmly in the green, and on the back of that our market also doing well. PSU banks particularly and metals are championing the gains. SBI yesterday and today, 2 days of follow-through stock action, doing very well. We then have some words as banks remain in focus because we have the SC hearing today on moratorium. That's now part 4 or 5 of this epic hearing which has gone on for a while. So stay tuned for updates from there. But in the meanwhile, the SBI chairman, and the new one I might say, Dinesh Kara, spoke to us this morning, and he's mindful of raising equity at bonds at competitive rates. The listing of Yono is very much on the cards in the medium term. So we all saw the Ant Financial listing. SBI is looking at something similar for Yono perhaps. And he believes that the economy is headed for a firm recovery and banks should do well on the back of that. Finally, some earnings on our radar this morning. We'll have Concor, Godrej Properties and ABB, which will be reporting earnings, so keep an eye out for that. And also an all-important PM investors meet to deliberate on economic revival. Top business leaders will be participating on a roundtable discussion to figure out where the outlook for us really lies. Those were the headlines for this morning. Back to you, Karunya, for a market check.
Well, the markets are looking fairly resilient. The handover also has been quite strong overnight. Nifty right now trading firmly above 12,000 mark. Sensex is up 550 points. Broader markets also participating equally. We'll get you a detailed market check eventually through the course of the show. Right now, let's touch base with the management of Balrampur Chini that's standing by to talk about the numbers and the plans ahead. Mr. Pramod Patwari joins us right now. Thank you so much for taking time out, sir. Could you talk to us about the realizations this quarter for sugar, ethanol, power? How has business played itself out during Q2?
Good morning. Realizations of sugar during this quarter were quite muted. During this quarter, the sugar realizations came at 32.97 per kg in comparison to 33.37 per kg. However, realizations from the ethanol improved quite a bit, and for the B-heavy ethanol, it was around 54.27 per liter, and for C-heavy, it is 43.75. As we are supplying ENA also, so the blended realization stood at around 45.62 per beer during this quarter.
Okay, could you also give us some color on your debt reduction plans by the end of Q2? What were the debt levels and how do you plan to bring it down?
Yeah, as of 30th of September 2020, if you can see, we have reduced our short-term borrowings completely. There is no short-term borrowings which is outstanding as on the date of the balance sheet. It is only the long-term loans which are around 400 crores and which carries a very nominal rate of interest between 3.5%. So this will leave its life, and during this period we have been able to reduce our short-term debt by almost 1,100 crores.
Right, sir. Hi, good morning. This is Varun also joining in. We just like to understand how much is ethanol as a percentage of your total revenues? Will it be going higher? And recently there's been some talk of, movements in ethanol prices. So how is that going to impact you?
Currently, the distillery revenue are around 9.9 to 10% in the overall revenue stream of the company, which we expect to raise it to around 19% in next 1 year. And you must have also noticed that yesterday the board of directors have approved the installation of one more distillery, which will be 5th in the company's portfolio. This will be a large distillery having a capacity of 320 KLPD. And during season, we intend to run this distillery on juice basis, thereby completely sacrificing the sugar of that particular unit. And in the off season, the distillery will run on grain based. So after putting up this distillery, our total capacity will go to almost 29.5 crores. And once this distillery commences its operations, the revenue of distillery in the overall basket could be around 30% in next 2 years' time.
So just to understand a little more clarity on this new plant, A, how much is it going to cost, the capex? How much will be funded via debt? How much will be funded via internal accruals? And then while you did share that it's going to form around 30% of total revenues, what is the additional crore figure revenue that this plant will give at full utilization?
This distillery will cost us around 320 crores as of now. And we intend to fund it through a debt and equity in the ratio of 70:30. That 70% of debt we are mentioning will come at a very nominal rate of around 3.5%, because this will also bear the interest subvention benefit which is the government of India is announcing. And our idea is to get rid of surplus sugar, whatever we are producing over a period of next 2 to 3 years, so that the dependence on export is completely eliminated.
Okay, that's heartening to know. Actually, you have improved your ratios quite a bit. Are there any targets or any levels that you guys have in mind over the medium term?
With respect to debt reduction, we would continue to remain extremely light in terms of the balance sheet. And the way the inventory reduction is happening in the company, apart from this sugar juice, we are aggressively looking for diversion through BAB route also. Under that also, you get a lot of sugar sacrifice. And the moment we produce ethanol, the working capital cycle is extremely fast. The money gets into our bank account within 30 to 35 days of our supply. So going forward, we will gradually see that even the short-term debts of the company will get reduced.
Okay. Do you have any further buybacks planned as well?
The last buyback was done only in the month of August. It was completed. So as of now, nothing, because the SEBI regulations also mandates a minimum gap of around 1 year between 2 buybacks. And if you see the history of the company for last 3-4 years, we have been continuously rewarding the shareholders in the form of buyback and dividends.
Right, so just one last question from us, which is a little bit guidance related. If you just look at things year on year, there is, quite a decline on all fronts, whether they be revenue or profitability. So what's your guidance and outlook, particularly on pricing and then volume growth in the 2 quarters that lie ahead?
First of all, I would like to say that the performance of the sugar company should always be seen on an annual basis, because it's seasonal in nature and the performance varies from quarter to quarter. It won't be right if we see the performance on a quarter to quarter basis. Going forward, as we said, that we are in the direction of reducing our sugar, thereby increasing the production of ethanol. So the revenue pot will move from sugar to ethanol, and the profitability are extremely good in ethanol. So that segment is going to have a significant presence both in terms of the revenue as well as the profitability going forward.
All right, thanks so much for taking out the time to chat with us this morning, sir. Appreciate it. Great to get perspective from you. That was the management of Balrampur Chini talking about the latest quarter gone by. It's almost time to talk technicals and fundamentals, but before we do, let's just take a look at how the markets are holding up this morning. It seems to be a firm day in the green for us. We've breached 12,000 well. We're 1.39% up at 12,073, so nearly at 12,100. It's quite a sight for sore eyes. The Nifty mid-cap is up and doing very well, up 1.5%. The auto index is up 1%. The bank index is up over 1%. And obviously SBI with that 5% move is leading the bank index higher. So it's very difficult to find something going wrong today. The breadth is 49-1. We have one Nifty stock that's declining right now, and that's Hero MotoCorp. Every single other one is in the green. Your top leaders are SBI, BPCL, Tata Steel, UPL, and an HCL Tech. We'll get more market updates as we go through the show, but let's touch base now with our experts. Kunal Bothra is with us, as is Vijay Chopra. Good morning. Thank you both for joining BNSN as always. Kunal, it's really refreshing to see the index above 12,000. Do you think this is really now the beginning of possibly a larger upward movement in the market, or do you think it is going to be choppy for a little while till we exactly figure out what's happening with the US presidential situation?
So good morning, Varun. Yes, I think the global markets are enjoying, the US presidential elections, getting over. Even though, at least as of now, there is no clear winner. But it's good enough to see the equity markets across the globe, being more buoyant, especially for our markets, since that psychological 12,000 mark has been breached. I think it gives a lot of, boost and I would say impetus towards short-term traders. So let's hope that the market gains sustain. For the indices as well as for the individual stocks. Now, I think in this kind of a scenario, it's very important to look at statistics as well. So, when we look at statistics in terms of parameters, 2 days back there was a significant drop in the Nifty open interest. And I think the trend going forward for the next couple of days, one has to watch that whether there is a build-up on the OI on the Nifty futures or not. If that happens, then we believe that there is a strong case that a near-term trend could be in the making. So if the rise in the indices is I would say conjuncted with a move in the or built up in the open interest, that is where I believe long positions gets developed, and that's a strong confirmation of a new trend. We've seen very good move on the banking stocks, so that's also one very important leg to watch out for. But I believe the two stocks which I would want to recommend are devoid of the banking names and something from different sectors, which I believe would probably now start to move up higher. So the first one which I picked up is a one BPCL. It's a very interesting chart because after I think almost a month, the stock has shown signs of a strong turnaround. It's broken above its major resistances, which was around 355, 356 kind of a zone. I think BPCL, Bharat Petroleum, I think it's a very interesting chart. Would suggest a buy on the stock for a positional target of upwards of 400. And stop loss could be kept at 345. The second would be a buy on Piramal Enterprise. Again, a very interesting chart. So we've seen many of the NBFC, stroke HFC names doing extremely well. Shriram Transport, Chola Finance, etc. They have done exceedingly well. Piramal Enterprise has also recovered almost 100 rupees from its multi-swing lows. So I think at current levels, it's looking poised for a run of almost 100 rupees higher from current levels. So I would term this as a high risk buy, high risk because of the beta nature of the stock price, and would suggest a target of 1400 plus, stop loss at 1275.
Okay, thanks, Kunal. Let's touch base with Vijay. Hi, Vijay. What's your high risk and low risk recommendation for our viewers today?
Hi, good morning. And I think that markets have shown huge resilience and given a thumbs up to whatever the United States votes into. Whichever president comes, I think that our markets are definitely going to step higher. So I've got two ideas today. The low risk idea is Tata Steel. I would recommend Tata Steel at around, say, trading at 419. I think that is somebody who holds with maybe 3 months to 5 months perspective. It can definitely go to 450 and 460. The reason is that there should be an uptick in the overall global steel demand, and Tata Steel has been doing a lot of exercises regarding debt reduction, and they've been trying to optimize their costs as far as the manpower costs go, or whatever cost overruns they've had in Europe. So I think that Tata Steel is poised to grow upwards, and one can take positions at these levels. The second idea is a bit of a high risk idea, that is Tata Motor DVR. Again, a Tata Group company, and the way Tata Motors has shown good sales numbers during this season. I think that this stock can also inch upwards, and there can be a 10 to 15% upside in this stock. It is trading about 55. I think that can go up to 65. It's a bit of a high risk idea, so keep a stop loss at 50, and I think that it can inch up to 65.
Vijay, time for a quick break here and Buy Now, Sell Now. We'll be back shortly.
Welcome back. You're still watching Buy Now, Sell Now. Both of our guests are standing by to help our viewers out with their queries. Kunal and Vijay, thank you for waiting by. First is a Twitter query we've received from Taresh. He's bought ITC at 245 rupees. He's not mentioned the quantum of shares. He wants to ask our experts whether he should continue to hold on to it or should he exit. What is your sense on ITC's chart, Kunal, going forward? While yes, in the recent past it has seen some up move, but all in all it is a slow mover and it's still way below the buying price of the viewer. What would be your recommendation to them?
Viewer over here to average out. I think at 170 odd levels, I think ITC could be an attractive buy. You can average it out. You can try and bring your cost price as close to 200, 205 odd range. Now, I for one believe that ITC is a key long-term stock. It has performed very well over the last 10 years. Yes, in the last 2-3 years, it might have lost its way a bit. But these large cap quality stocks, they have a habit of remaining silent and for a fair enough period of time where the investor participation and the interest drops off, and all of a sudden you see active price action coming back into these names. So I for one believe that at this 170 odd level, ITC is an attractive buy. Since you bought at higher levels, then I would advise that you should average it out and try to average it out in a manner where you can bring your cost price to almost 200 or slightly lower than that.
All right. Okay, Vijay, do you agree with Kunal? Is it a good time to average out perhaps?
The chart as well as fundamentally, I think that ITC is well poised for a growth. The reasons are that it has 4-5 major levers of business. One is cigarettes. So I don't think that cigarette volumes are going to go down anytime soon. We saw a dent during the COVID times when all the shops were closed down. But I think that when things have opened up, cigarette business would not look down at all. Number two, they are into paper, which feeds into the cigarette business. So I think that paper is also going to grow from here, because once the economy starts opening up, the paper requirement will also go up. Number three is hotels. So I think that the hotels have already seen the worst. And from here, if at all we are seeing things opening up, the hotel should do good as well. Fashion should do good as well. So I don't see any major downsides in ITC. They have been priced in, and it's a very attractive valuation at this point of time. People can buy at these levels fresh. As far as this gentleman goes who has bought at higher levels, he can average. And I think that ITC should head higher. And once it crosses 200 barrier, I think 230, 240 is definitely on the card. So be patient with this stock. People have lost a lot of money in the markets, but again, ITC has never been a wealth destructor. And I'm sure that if somebody holds on to the stock patiently for a year and a half, there's a decent money to be made.
Thanks for that, Vijay. I think you summarized it very well. Lots of deep value sitting in ITC, limited downside, simply a matter of how long it'll take for the value to unlock. So stay put and average at lower levels. The next stock in that sense is very similar, also offers a lot of deep value, hasn't moved, but finally is showing some signs of recovery, and that's SBI. We have a query from Riya Bajaj of Mumbai, and she bought SBI right before the earnings at 203. So good call, Riya. You seem to be doing well in a fairly short span of time. Kunal, coming up on the chart, Riya wants to know if she can hold or not. So, I mean, a lot of people seem to think this is the beginning of a big re-rating for SBI. What are your thoughts?
I think the thought that the stock could probably go through a re-rating could be a fair thought as well. Because it's coming at the backdrop of many of these banking stocks showing strength. So particularly SBI doesn't get compared very, very directly towards its immediate PSU peers. In fact, SBI in most aspects gets compared to the top private sector banks. So we tend to put the stocks like ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank, Kotak Bank, and probably even an SBI in the same vein, even though they are from different subsectors. But nevertheless, I think the charts for SBI particularly, I think, shows very good comeback today. The gap up move which the stock has seen indicates that there is a new wave of buying which could happen to the stock. 5% up as a gap of opening, and the stock gains strength even post that. So I for one believe that SBI should move up higher, since you've already bought at the anticipation of results, and the stock is doing good. Assuming if your time frame is not very short term, and if you were not just about looking to play out the result play. So if you're looking to play out result play, then I think you can book out at 217 or 220 levels where the stock is trading right now. But if you can convert your your action from being into a result play to now being in an investor and probably holding on to it from a longer term time frame, then I definitely believe that you should hold on to your investments on SBI. So it all depends on the kind of the thought process in which you've entered into SBI. Don't need to convert the thought process as such, but if you want to alter it and assuming want to hold on to it from a longer term view, then I believe holding on to SBI could be a good buy. I would place targets somewhere in the range of 240 to 250 on SBI in the medium term. So for the next 1 to 3 months, if you can hold, then I believe that should be a potential target range for SBI.
Thanks, Kunal. That's a lot less bullish than some of the brokerages. Vijay, the reason your fundamental take is important is because this has happened just last quarter with SBI. 3-4 brokerages came with a note. Goldman Sachs, CLSA, targets of 300. SBI went up to around 220 and then it collapsed again. Is this going to be something that we see this time round, or do you think this time there is perhaps a greater momentum that's pushing it higher?
But again, it's a gap up opening today. So whenever gaps are seen, they are filled as well. So I would recommend that, if somebody has bought the stock with a result perspective, I think they should book out and wait. Chances are that you can get the stock around 200 for a longer term period. Yes, I think that SBI is well placed for an uptick. The negatives have been priced in. We are seeing a very serious recovery happening in the Indian economy, and the moratorium thing is also getting clearer and clearer by the day. So whatever shockers were there in the in the system, they have taken place. There's a change of guard at SBI. There's new chairman in place. So I'm sure that this new management will come with new strategies and energy, and for sure we are going to see higher levels in SBI. So as of now, I would recommend that you should book profit and wait for this gap to be filled. And once it is done, you can again get into the stock, and there could be for fresh buying as well. So in the public sector banks, I think that stocks like Bank of Baroda, SBI, they are well placed for an up move, so they can be bought into in any correction.
Great, thanks for that, Vijay. And on that note, a big thank you to both our experts for joining us this morning. We're done with queries for today. Continuing the SBI talk, the brokerages are all very positive on it. So while our experts were a bit cautious, CLSA has a 330 target, Goldman has a 300 target, and JP Morgan has a 270 rupee target. All the reasons are pretty much the same, that asset quality is holding up really well, NI and pre-provisioning profit is growing well, ROEs are healthy, and it's just so cheap if you look at the valuations of the subsidiaries. So let's see how the stock responds in the following weeks. But earlier this morning, we caught up with Dinesh Khara, who's the new MD and chairman at SBI. And we discussed the numbers with him, which were largely a beat. Let's listen in.
I think last quarter, what we had done, we had actually provided for one of the large accounts, large housing company account. And for if we knock off that one-off, and if we reckon the provisions which we have created for the performance slippages, additional performance slippages, then actually there's an increase of almost about 50 to 60% over the last quarter. So we are quite conservative when it comes to, conservative in the sense that we have tried to reckon all possible threats, and based upon that, we have made an assessment from bottom-up approach, ask the relationship managers about the likely stress in their accounts, and based upon that, we have done this provisioning. Actually, in many respects, the way economy is evolving, actually post-COVID, or maybe as the unlock is happening increasingly with the unlock, the hope is getting revived significantly, and also there is a pent-up demand in the economy. So I think what I would say is that wherever we are seeing the unlock happening, the demand seems to be coming back, and that is one of the reasons why. When we look at our numbers, also we are almost in the personal segment. We are actually at the pre-COVID levels. And when we interact with the various industry players, the general sense which I'm getting is that they are almost about 70 to 80% of the pre-COVID level. So that actually augurs very well. And if at all, with every unlock, there is, I think, there's incremental hope which is there, and that of course gives the confidence and the courage to the customers also to come out and spend the money.
All right, moving on, let's quickly pull up the BNSN stock cloud to help you understand which are the stocks you need to watch out for in trade. Many of them, in fact, are earnings candidates. SBI, of course, is flying away in trade. You have an HPCL. Earnings plus the announcement of a buyback that's keeping the stock abuzz. USL also doing fairly well in trade. SRF, very strong set of numbers, and even JK Lakshmi, Pidilite, KEC International buzzing away in trade. But on the flip side, you have the likes of Happiest Minds, which are looking a bit weak after delivering Q2 numbers. You also have a Lupin, another earnings candidate, which delivered a below par set of numbers. Welcome back. You're still watching Buy Now, Sell Now. At the start of the day, we asked you a question as part of our BNSN daily quiz. And today we asked you which of these private sector banks posted the highest NIM during Q2 of FY21. The options were HDFC Bank, Kotak Mahindra Bank, Axis Bank and ICICI Bank. You have a few more minutes to participate. If you wish to do so, log on to our Twitter handle, ET Now Live, and post your answers in the comments section of the quiz.
Okay, let's switch gears a little bit. We're now joined by a very rare and special management. We're joined by Mr. Prashant Pandey, who's the MD and CEO, and Mr. N. Subramaniam, Executive Director and Group CFO of the Entertainment Network India. Good morning, sirs, to you both, and thank you so much for taking out the time to chat with ET Now. Since it's been a while since we last touched base, I'd like to ask you, across the sectors, which markets are faring better for you and which aren't? And is there any correlation between what's happened with respect to COVID and your businesses?
That's a very good question you ask. And if you were to analyze the results of Radio Mirchi, you find a very direct correlation between what's happened on the ground on COVID and the markets in which our growth rates have been reported. So to just give you some examples, while our company's overall degrowth has been 56-57% compared to last year, there are markets like Rajasthan and Himachal Pradesh and Chhattisgarh and Assam, where the impact of COVID has been very less, where actually we have seen a growth compared to last year. And there are markets like Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh, again, where the spread of COVID has been relatively limited. The degrowth has been in the region of about 30% or thereabout. But if you look at the big southern states, and if you look at Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Kerala, where there's been a huge rampaging COVID, business over there is down between 70 and 75%. So there's a direct correlation between, what's happening on ground on COVID and our results. And that is why, I just want to bring out to your notice that as far as the company is concerned, we are on a very strong wicket. And as soon as COVID lifts in this country, and it's already starting to lift, we're seeing that, we are going to be on a pretty strong wicket. And I expect that Q3 and Q4 are going to be much better quarters coming up for the company.
Right, sir. Thanks for giving us some guidance as well. But what we'd like to know is what specifically are the levers that need to come into play if your operational performance needs to improve, if your margins need to improve? What are the factors we really need to be looking at across the segments?
Is the most important for any media business, and that is that the real economy has to pick up. And the real economy, you will observe, has started picking up in the second quarter. And the real economy should do much better in the third quarter. There is some optimism that the GDP may, in fact, turn flat and stop the degrowth that's happening in the third quarter itself. And if that were to happen, then the media businesses and the radio in particular will certainly benefit from that. The only driver for the radio business is that the markets must be open, the stores must be open, consumers must be allowed to buy goods, and that fuels the media and entertainment industry's growth. Here's another thing that's very important as far as our bottom line is concerned, and that is that how we manage the costs in this very turbulent period. And I'm sure that while Subbu will give some details of the cost initiatives that the company has taken, I would just like to mention that those cost initiatives are long-term in impact. And therefore, in the second half of the year, we see very positive gains happening on the bottom line of the company.
Okay, let's take it across to Mr. Subramanian then. Would you want to start with the cost initiatives that Mr. Pandey was just flagging off about? Because operationally, the quarter has been weak. So when do you see these cost rationalization strategies meaningfully reflect on your P&L?
Yeah. So essentially, if you look at our Caroneum, if you look at our cost structure, there are broadly 4 cost elements. The one is the DVC that has come down quite significantly in line with the level of activity. And when the level of activity picks up, the increase that you will see there will not be quite. The level of activity will not. So when the level of activity resumes, the DVC will come back, but not at the same level, because we have also seen a very significant improvement in our margins. Our gross margins in our non-FCT business, which is what leads to DVC, is today now more than 50% if you look at the first half numbers, right? So we will see a slower growth in our DVC. So that's a big trigger to profitability. The second one is the fixed cost structure, right? The fixed cost structure has now declined by more than 35 crores in the first half of the financial year. And large part of that will remain because of the rationalization that we have carried out. So that's a second big trigger for a profitability growth when the revenues resume in the second half in a very strong way. And the third component, of course, is license fee and royalty, where the cost will come back to previous levels because it is linked to the FCT revenue, and the percentages may go up a bit there, but not a significant increase to sort of offset the big gains that we will see in the other segments. So overall, we are very, very bullish about our cost structure, and when the economy sort of resumes its uptrend and the revenues sort of come back to or even start growing stronger than previous levels in our non-FCT business, we will see a strong growth in our profitability.
Okay. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining in and talking to us about how the scenario is panning out for you all and what's the way forward, and of course the cost rationalization measures. Moving on then, it's time to reveal our quiz questions answer and also the list of winners for the day. We asked you which of the private sector lenders posted the highest NIM during Q2 FY21, options being HDFC Bank, Kotak Mahindra Bank, Axis Bank and ICICI Bank. The correct answer to this question is option B, which is Kotak Mahindra Bank. Let me flag off the name of our quiz champions as well. There's Umesh, Karthik Raja and Equi Ideas 09. Well, we only have the Twitter handle, so we have to work with that name. So congratulations all three of you for getting it right. Thank you so much for the rest of you for participating day in and day out. We'll bring you a fresh quiz tomorrow morning. Stay tuned for that on our Twitter handle. Slipping into a break here, more updates on the other side. Keep it with ET Now.
Hi and welcome back to Buy Now, Sell Now. You're watching ET Now. As part of our investor education series, Nivesh Ke Fande, systematic investment plans, or as we call them SIPs, have become a part of our day-to-day language. But SIPs are not restricted only to equity mutual funds. On this edition of Nivesh Ke Fande, we take a look at SIPs in debt funds. Let's listen in.
Avan, an often asked viewer query is whether investors should consider doing an SIP in a debt mutual fund.
Investors can consider putting their money into debt mutual funds if the roller coaster ride of equity funds is not for them.
In fact, investors could liken doing an SIP in a debt mutual fund to, say, doing a recurring deposit with a bank.
With one major difference, that returns from a recurring deposit may be guaranteed, but returns from a debt fund will be varied.
Well, that's true, Avan, because debt funds invest in corporate bonds, in commercial papers, government securities, other debt securities, which do tend to carry some amount of risk.
While the risk is definitely more than that of putting money in a fixed deposit, it's sizably less than investing in equity mutual funds.
But just like in equities, Avan, an SIP in debt assets too can help you ride the volatility in the debt market.
So if you're a risk-averse investor but still want to invest in a different class other than a bank deposit, then consider putting your money through an SIP in a debt fund.
And that's all on this edition of Nivesh Ke Fund Day on Times Network. Thanks for watching.
With that, we're timed out on this edition of Buy Now, Sell Now, so we're going to wrap it up. Thank you for tuning in.